Are we live? Of course I'm live. It's Reese here from Reese's Food Feeds again. And Monday afternoon, I've just had a quiet day, which has given me a chance to reflect on the highs and sadly the various lows of Burnley season so far. We're two-thirds of the way through the season with 13 games left. And anybody with a sane and sensible football in mind would appear to have come to the conclusion already that in terms of survival, Burnley's hopes are pretty much dashed. But of course, until there's the red lights around it's going in, we shouldn't give up hope. And we are actually only 7 points away from safety, which is, in terms of football and points, a lot. But only 13 games left, and that only takes a 3 game swing, which stranger things have happened. And obviously, with the possible extra punishment at Everton's way, and the punishment that could be impending for Nottingham Forest, uh, you know, it, maybe we could be done a favour miraculously and somehow, uh, benefit from the suffering of Everton and Forest, but whether we would want to from uh, a moral standpoint, that's a subject for debate. But we'll have to wait and see in those regards. But I just need to think about where is it unraveled so desperately for Burnley this season. And I think there's several factors that we can put it down to, and obviously these are entirely subjective, and there's no right or wrong answers, no fact or truth. It's just each person's individual thoughts, opinions, and whatnot. And in the comment section after the stream, feel free to let me know what you feel. But some of my suggestions, just as silly and absurd as it might sound, did we get promoted from the championship uh, last season in a way that was sort of too easy, that it was a formality from January, February onwards, and did it breed an air of complacency that we had too much time to plan, and so that we didn't act crisply and decisively as we might have done in our transfer activities, because I understand that football, players of equality and who come with reputations, sort of always have inflated prices on them, but I don't understand how James Trafford could cost £90 million when he'd never made an appearance above League One before the start of the season. And for example, because we are only Liverpool Burnley in relative terms, once we've spent £90 million on a man, how could he then not come into the first team and be the first choice keeper? And I expect whenever match fit, not to, uh, not to be between the sticks. But on one hand, if you say that James Stafford has to start after that fee being spent, then the same principle must be applied surely then to the transfer fee for Matt Trezor, who also cost around the £90 million mark. But then we haven't seen him for months, hardly, and whenever we have, he hasn't shone. But then, on the other hand, has he really been given time to show his attributes that he can bring to the table when he's only had sort of bit part minutes, cameos of 15, 20 minutes, sometimes even 5 minutes at the most? how can we really see what he can do? But then again, how can we afford to snub a man who came to Burnley with the most goal involvements and assists in the whole of the European continent last season? Are we above giving that man his time to shine? Which sort of brings me on to another point of uh, obviously teams always work up to the August deadline and so on and so forth. But were we proactive enough in getting our transfer business sorted out early enough in the summer window? Because it would have been nice if the players were mainly in the door from early to mid to late July onwards to give them a month or two to bed in and become acclimatised to not in most cases often the cultural differences of the country, uh, the ethos of what Vincent Company was trying to achieve, and also acclimatise themselves to the demands technically and physically of the Premier League, because it feels to me as though we had to start the season with Koleosho, who then it was marvellous before his injury, but really would Trezor have ideally come in and played on his favoured side rather than being slightly out of position there. And that for me, the spending of the money on Trezor just doesn't seem to make sense if you're not going to use him. And I just wonder, you know, did we have to spend so much money on some talents that we've barely seen, like Nathan Redmond? All right, he's out for the season. He was maybe supposed to be the uh, Burnley equivalent of Andros Townsend, and you know, an older head and experienced body, somebody who is with uh, in the prime, so to speak, even at the age of 29. He's not over the hill by any means, even though he's injured. But could he or should he have been utilised more when he was here as sort of a on-field leader and not necessarily a vocal voice or a a tackler, obviously, or someone to lead by example in terms of aggression and management of the game, but just the experience of knowing what to do. Not to mention the sort of behind the scenes uh, knowledge and professionalism that he could have passed on. But we just seem to be have been disjointed, and in certain cases there's been a stubbornness about the repeated uh, selections of players getting in. Some people getting, in my opinion, too many chances to prove themselves. I love him doing it as a player and as, the way that he moves, the way that he glides across the pitch, but I just wish that he would be more direct and endeavour to do his work higher up the pitch rather than gliding across the ground, taking his man on deep and sometimes running into blind alleys. And just on the point of I'm doing it, as much as I love him, I don't think I've ever seen a player in the Premier League lose the footing so often. I don't know whether it's a coordination thing with a man or whether he needs some new studs, but he doesn't fall over a hell of a lot. And to say that we just spent £105 million, we've not got anywhere near enough bang for our buck in general with this 2011. Like, it just seems disjointed. Like, we're almost into March, and I don't know what Burnley's best 11 is. And I certainly think that Vincent Company and Craig Bellamy don't either. And as a 34-year-old Burnley fan who's been going to, well, Turf Moor every week since the age of 8 years old, and the majority of away games since the age of 9 or 10. Some seasons, nearly every away game. Other seasons, depending on care-wise, who can take me because I'm disabled, for anybody who doesn't know, and finances sometimes. Almost every away game, other seasons, I would have to say that the sad fact is that I've always had a favourite Burnley player, whether it been Andy Payton, Glenn as a child, Robbie Blake in later years, Ian Moore, then in the Premier League era for years and years, Ashley Westwood, last season, Muric, Teller, Cerruti. But this season, I don't have a single Burnley player because that I can count as my favourite, sorry, because there just seems to be a sort of a lack of personality and a disconnect that I feel between the fans and the players. That there isn't anybody who so much gets me bum off my seat, metaphorically speaking. Obviously, it's when it's Stan, Corey O'Shaw, and Audemars have done, but not to an extent where you have a bit of hope when they get the ball, but because they're like ploughing along furrow and we're not 11 players as a team. It's four-man defence, three-man midfield, then three attackers all playing isolated football, and there's no synergy, structure, and chemistry between the team. It doesn't look like everybody's getting on the ball, and we don't know what each player is going to do next. And there's not a great deal of anticipation between, say, wingers and right back and left backs. In fact, we've completely made the left side of the pitch null and void all season long, really, by playing a centre back and a very limited centre back in the form of Delcroix. And even when we have had a left back, it's been a right-footed left back in the form of Vittino, and he wasn't even the most trusted and influential right back in the Championship last season. So expecting a man to pull up trees at a much more elite and testing level on the opposite side of the pitch than where he should be. We've been asking for trouble, and when you put a centre back at left back, obviously, well, for one thing, Delcroix is really slow, and for another, ultimately you're robbing yourself of any form of attacking outlet from that side of the pitch. My point being, though, is that we can all look at these things that have added to our woes, and I think I've highlighted enough of those now, but I just think it partly to do with the way the fixtures fell for us at the start of the season. We had a lot of very testing home games against City, Villa, Spurs, Chelsea, and I just feel like those very, very demoralising defeats where we ended up shipping uh, 16 goals in the process of those four games, and we're absolutely schooled on all four occasions, really. And with the way the fixtures came about, the only away game that there was supposed to be at Luton back in August after the City game, and I just feel that obviously we could accept a 3-0 defeat against City during the opening game, but there was nothing too bad about the performance on the night for the opening. for the opening game. It was pretty much what most people would have expected, and the damage was limited. But to go to uh, an unfancied like a team who we were promoted with, who we came up with the the supposedly talented, more talented squad, the better footballing team. We'd beaten Luton away from home last season. We'd finished what 9 or 10 points above them from memory last season. And I just feel that one of the things that set us back was losing to City, losing heavily again, and to Villa, getting absolutely spanked by Spurs, Chelsea. Then we had a dismal game at Newcastle, and it was just like the way the fixtures were formulated at the beginning of the season. If we could have just gone to Luton on for the second game, being as it should have been, and got a point on the board or a win, I just feel like perhaps we could have had some more belief from uh, a game to grind our feet in the Premier League and grow into it. But I just feel like conceding 16 goals in 4 home games, the players were demoralised. Like we took Pistons and there wasn't like a gentle game where we can play our football, stamp our authority, have you know have possession and counter it. Well, we could, but what I'm saying is all those teams that I've just named obviously all seek to press very, very high up the pitch. So we came into the league hoping to establish ourselves and play with authority and swagger and confidence. But we then had that sort of desire to play in that way well and truly beaten out of us because we played that way to great cost. And then obviously we've adapted a little bit more with, you know, not spending quite as long in possession and getting the ball up the pitch slightly quicker, but we've not invested in personnel that have the facilities to give us that sort of variety, which is why I'm going to come on to the subject of as much as I love Gio Rodriguez, I personally now look back with a bit of regret that we chose to get rid of Ashley Barnes instead because I think his uh, combative nature, physicality, passion, sort of venom that he plays with, and the way that he can back in when free kicks, cause himself cause problems to the defender and keep the defenders occupied might give us another option than what Giroud has been able to do. And just obviously another factor is because we've not been able to rely on the consistency and continuity of having while Foster available before he was now injured, and then obviously earlier in the season, uh, usually when a player has an injury, like uh, as fans after scans are done and things like that, we know how long the player's going to be out for. But with Foster, it became more of a matter of obviously how long is a piece of string where when it comes to a mental health problem it's very difficult to put a time frame on someone's recovery from that, and mercifully he's on the right side of his issues now, but it's just he was really finding his feet, really growing into the role after not impressing so much in the championship, and he was our best player of the season, in my view, up until his, you know, mental health problems took him out of the picture. But I always look back and think, and don't get me wrong, obviously mental health problems can be very deep, but if we could have just scored that winning goal at Nottingham Forest away, where uh, the the ball hit Burge's shoulder and the referee had judged it to be an handball, even though it was only his shirt sleeve, that would have been a statement victory that we could have won against another rival team. So that would have done everything for our positive confidence, and as a collective group of people, group, that would have then been two victories over that Nottingham Forest team at that stage of the season. So VAR is one issue that I don't think it's helped us, because there was a Forest game. There was obviously the time when uh, Coley Osho was brought down against West Ham. That was a blatant penalty that would have given us a 2-0 lead, and we would have felt safer to manage the game and sit back against them, rather than panicking at 1-0 and sitting back and then losing two goals in the last 3 minutes. Uh, there was the Man United game where we gave a really good account of ourselves, and then just one long ball switched off, and uh, Bruno Fernandes scores and all those things, and then obviously Bournemouth away, where we played absolutely terribly on the day and didn't deserve anything, but we uh, should have been allowed to equalise through Gerrard right at the dying embers of the game, when VAR gave a goal, said it was onside, and then changed it to a red line even after it had gone green. So we've not been out by sort of injuries, because it seems like every time we've had an injury, they all seem to be like long term kind of. Nobody ever gets a knock anymore. It seems like someone hurts themselves and they're out for months. Coley Oshaw, Foster, Ekdal, Byers, uh, Redmond, probably now Aaron Ramsey. It's always so long-term injuries. So it's just this idea of who's the best player, because the squad has been so bloated, and yet we still seem to be sort of treading water and having a paper-thin squad. So whilst I think the recruitment has been horrific, whilst I think Vincent Company's tactical awareness and stubbornness, and the inability to sign a left back over two transfer windows, the inability to uh, sort of arrange a midfield that's tenacious, structured, and energetic enough for the Premier League has been a huge issue. I also think that certain things, like, for example, not giving Josh Cullen a look in 3 months. I don't remember seeing him since the West Ham game, when he came on and conceded two goals in the last 5 minutes of the game when he was on. Uh, well, where's he been since? He's just been warming the bench. But, a man can't become rubbish overnight. And he was the fans and teammates player of the year last year. So that's, will he want to stay in the Championship next season? Probably not. I just think it's been a catastrophe. However, as I say, you don't know what can happen, and it could, in a dream scenario, swing very quickly. And we all have belief, don't we, that when Burnley play again, we're going to do better, and we could beat Crystal Palace, and then one win could bring two, and Nottingham Forest and Everton could have points deductions, and by a miracle we could still. But I just feel that, we don't know what went on at the football club in the summer. Did Sir Rooney Benson, Muric, has there been fallouts behind the scenes, or is it just Vincent Company responding to what he's seen in training and moved away from them that way? But then again, why were Benson and Zaruri and so on given the new contracts that they were if he didn't believe in their ability to impact our starting 11? But these are just a few of my random thoughts about where things have catastrophically come undone for us. And please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and feel free to leave any opinions that you have on the issues that I've raised in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back again soon. And I hope to deliver an Everton against Crystal Palace watch along on here towards 8 o'clock tonight. Thank you for watching, anybody who does, and I'll be back again soon.